Today, I'm going to tell you how to use ChatGPT to write philosophy essays using the yo-yo method. No, I'm not talking about having it write the essay for you. I'm not talking about cheating or plagiarizing or anything like that. That's not the point here. I'm talking about actually making good use of the AI agent to better your papers, better your arguments, and go through the process of revision and editing so much faster. So, what's the right way to begin with this? Well, first of all, you can't depend upon it to have the original thoughts, right? So you're going to want to have some kind of not only topic, but argument. So what you do is you write down your topic and a brief sketch of your argument. This can be just a couple of sentences. It doesn't have to be anything extraordinary. Take that snippet and paste it in there and say, okay, critique this argument. Then show me the gaps. Tell me what my assumptions are. And that'll help you to kind of think through, okay, here are where the weak points of my argument can be found. Here are the things that I could do to make it better. This is something that I should have said, but I didn't say. It's really good at picking up on that kind of stuff. So once you have the sketch of your argument laid out and how it is that roughly you're going to approach things, you've already got a good chunk of what you need for an introductory paragraph and a statement of your thesis. What you need now is some form of outline to break out exactly how it is that you're going to go about doing this over time. Now, what I recommend first, of course, is trying to write out what you think would be a good idea. Copy that, put that in there and say, okay, this is my outline for the topic as part of that same conversation because it'll remember what you told it earlier. Tell it to give me some suggestions for additional material. What am I missing here? What more should I put in? The same kinds of things that you would ask your professor. If you had a professor of infinite patience that would sit down with you and help you basically write and do everything with the paper and think through all of the little eccentricities and details. That's essentially what we have here. So ask it to help you fill in some of those gaps, form the outline for you. So once you've gotten your outline in pretty good shape, you've got your thesis in pretty good shape. You know what the argument's going to look like. You know exactly what you're going to say. Now it's time to fill in some of the details. And so what I recommend here is going through and saying, okay, give me some suggestions for resources to pull in for this. Give me some suggestions for things that I should refer to in constructing this part of the argument. And take some notes on that. And this is going to help in terms of, okay, you might already have a few notes on the first paragraph needs to have this, this, and this in it. And ChatGPT will tell you, okay, you might also, by the way, want to consider this other work. This is especially useful if you're writing an essay on someone where you're only familiar with one of the works, but of course the philosopher, like let's say it's Aquinas or Augustine or something where they have an entire bookshelf full of works that ChatGPT's read them, but no one else has. Hardly. And so what you can do is you can say, okay, well, here's my idea. This is what I like. This is what I want to say in this work. Give me some additional passages and some additional works by this same author that say the same thing or that would help my argument to make the same point. And it will help you to find those resources. So that is spectacularly useful. And so this is all part of, we're fleshing out the outline, we're providing additional detail and kind of constructing what it is that we want to say, just in sketch form. It's not full, beautiful prose yet, just in sketch form in terms of the resources that we need. Now, once we feel like, all right, this is all the stuff that I've assembled for this first paragraph. This is what I think is going to be necessary for this. Now let me go ahead and try and write that and put together some kind of reasonable way of explaining it. Now, here's why you shouldn't have ChatGPT do that for you. Because ultimately, ChatGPT will try and create the argument for you, will try and create the prose for you, will try and create, essentially it's this, the chain of thought for you. It will try and mimic what it would be like to have a legitimately insightful perspective and then try and convey that to someone. The problem is, it's just the illusion of that it has. What you really need is that core understanding. You have some kind of core insight and understanding that you want to try and get across to your audience. You may not be the best writer in the world. That's fine, we can fix that. But you've got to have that core thought of here's how the argument works, here's what I want to say. So get that down first in some form. So once you've gotten that down, then you can ask it to help you revise it. Say, help me say this better. Find other wording for this. Phrase this differently. Make this flow better. Find a segue between these two ideas. Maybe I have two different paragraphs that seem roughly disjoint, but I know they belong together. You can ask it to help you write a segue and a transition to go in between those ideas. So it's all the hard parts of revising and editing with respect to, just trying to get the grammar right, the spelling right, the flow, the structure, all of the sort of English compositional elements that we learn when we're taking those classes. It can help you to iterate and revise those things and get them better and better and better. But like I said, the one thing that it will not help you do is get that initial insightful idea that's really going to be the catalytic moment for spurring on the entire paper. That's got to be yours. Otherwise, the whole paper is going to read rather thin. So it can do well summarizing stuff that's out there. It can do well connecting ideas, comparing and contrasting. I mean, that's all well and good. It has encyclopedic knowledge, but it doesn't have human insight with respect to this. It's not going to come up with those new philosophical ideas that the human philosopher is going to be doing. And maybe that's coming one of these days. Maybe it'll be able to create its own stuff, but realistically, that kind of level is something that the human needs to be involved in. So make your own ideas. Make your own ideas and your own arguments. Try and get a sketch of that down on paper. Even if you're a terrible writer, it doesn't matter. Get it down on paper and then ask it to help you revise those ideas. Okay, so this is why it's called the yo-yo method. Because ultimately what we're going to do is we're going to throw something out there, we're going to write it out, we're going to throw it out there. ChatGPT is going to help us to revise it to make it flow better, to say it more briefly, to say it less confusingly, to, whatever it might happen to be. Say it more clearly. This is what, philosophy professors absolutely love, right? Say things more clearly. Just get to it. Give me the ideas, Let's try and make the medium as transparent to thought as we possibly can. And so that's the sort of thing that it's going to be very helpful in doing. And so you throw something out there, it gives you something back, you chew on that, maybe revise it, or you can even try this, it's kind of interesting. You throw an idea out there and say, okay, help me revise this paragraph. It gives it back to you. Then you can just throw it right back and say, you know what, revise this and make it clearer, or have it critique its own work. Sometimes that's actually very insightful and interesting. So I wouldn't recommend doing that all the time, but it is kind of interesting to see. What I would recommend is do a little bit of your own work, throw it out there, ask it to help you with phrasing or revising or editing or whatever it might happen to be, summarizing, making it shorter. Get that back, look at it again, tweak it again, throw it out there, and then go through again like the yo-yo, up and down, up and down, up and down, until you feel like the level of polish is where you want it, and man, it really sounds good. And so that's ultimately what it is that we're headed towards. So you do that with all the different sections of the paper. And then you can ask some of the big questions. What you can do is you can say, okay, here is my entire essay. Now critique this. Where are the gaps? What assumptions am I making that are problematic? And if you're responding to a particular philosopher, this part is really interesting. I think you're going to like this tip. Have it respond to your essay as if it was the philosopher you were criticizing. So if you're criticizing Descartes' cogito and saying, oh, that can't possibly be right, you can't, I think, therefore I am, you're making all these assumptions and doing this and that and the other. Formulate your argument, toss it to ChatGPT and say, okay, now you are Descartes. Respond as if you're Descartes and tell me what's wrong with this argument. That can be very helpful. And so I recommend exactly the same thing. As I have students that are getting ready for a debate, have that debate with ChatGPT. Have it tell you how it would respond. Have it give you the strongest objections that it possibly can. Have it analyze whether or not you've truly steel-manned an argument. In other words, whether you've truly represented it in a way that the original thinker would recognize. You can have it do all of these things. In that process of iteration and in revising and editing and looking things up, a lot of what used to be very laborious and really just a lot of unnecessary pain that kind of thing is going to be decreasing. So while everybody looks at, this is sort of the moral of the story, right? While everybody looks at these things and says, oh no, it's going to write our essays for us, it's going to put us out of work, or it's going to make this totally unnecessary. No, but it will help a lot. And I think that's what everybody in general is going to progressively realize is, we don't need to panic so much about it completely replacing us. What we need to try and figure out is, how can we use this to make everything I already do faster? How can we use this to make it more efficient? And so being able to do more research, use it as a kind of super index. I want something that's similar to this idea. Not just synonymous with it, not just, a see also in the index, but no kidding, tell me something that's kind of like that idea. And, that's the sort of thing that now we can do that really we just haven't been able to do before. So I hope this helps. I hope you found it interesting. I hope you found it insightful and helpful. And I hope it takes some of the pain out of the work of writing essays for you. I hope ultimately that you found this good to think with. See you next time.